Oh my. So very low tech and no marketing. Let's see if it's live.
It says it's live.
Yeah, we're working. All right. Hello, everybody. We're back after a couple weeks off. Goddess Bible Study's back. We've got Joshua and Lisa in the house. Thank you guys for showing up. So yeah, I guess we'll just jump right into it. I wrote this up on my Substack. If anyone wants to see, edwarddodge.substack.com. But this week, we're just going through the timeline. So we are still in the Bronze Age collapse, and this is the first kings of Israel and the end of the tribal matriarchy. So this is the inflection point when we see the last mention of matriarchies in the timeline and the beginning of kings. So this is my Chat GPT image. Getting better every time. All right, so it's the depths of the Bronze Age collapse, a time of famine, anarchy, and lawlessness that is portrayed in the books of Ruth and Samuel. In the late 11th century BCE, the Israelites decided that they wanted a king to lead them. Whether the people understood at the time or not, this decision would end their tribal, more cooperative and egalitarian lifestyle and replace it with top-down rule by kings who demand taxes, tribute, and the service of the people's sons and daughters. The rival of kingship also extinguished the final vestiges of Bronze Age matriarchy that still existed among the Israelites and ushered in the new era of firm Iron Age patriarchy. The first king was the disgraced Saul, followed by the most beloved King David, and then the wisest King Solomon, as seen in the books of 1st and 2nd Samuel. But first, we will look at the book of Ruth, which is the last mention of a matriarchy in the biblical timeline. It is a treatise on why women should join the patriarchal Yahweh clans. Earlier, we saw the prophetesses Deborah and Miriam as tribal leaders. Going forward, we will now see kings with many wives, while the queen mothers like Jezebel get overthrown. I've been making the case all along that during the Bronze Age, patriarchal and matriarchal family structures coexisted, called mothers' homes and fathers' homes. But in the Iron Age, the tribal matriarchies were purged from civilization, but they continued in indigenous cultures around the world into the modern day. The book of Ruth shows this historical transition point when the last of the tribal matriarchies were still around and women still had a bit of choice in the matter. So Ruth was a Moabite woman who married into an Israelite family that had moved to Moab to escape famine in Israel. Famines were a feature in this time period and are mentioned during the reign of King David. Modern scholarship shows that there were many famines during the 300-year Bronze Age collapse that contributed to the instability and social breakdown. So Ruth had married one of two sons, but tragically all the men died, leaving three widows, the mother Naomi and her two daughters-in-law. Naomi instructed the young women to return to their mother's home and their gods of Moab, which was one of the matriarchal polytheistic Canaanite groups that the biblical writers are always raging against. But Ruth chose to stay with her mother-in-law and put her faith in Yahweh, who rewarded her with an honorable husband named Boaz and a child who would become the grandfather of King David. The story is a not-so-subtle pitch to the women of the day that Yahweh would take care of you in his patriarchal families, even if your husband dies. In matriarchal families, the women could rely on each other for support and were less dependent on their husbands. Women had to be convinced, sold, or kidnapped into joining patriarchal families. Any questions before we jump into it? All right, so this is from the Bible. The book of Ruth is pretty short. There's only 4 books or 4 chapters. So this is Ruth 1. So this is after the men have died. Then Naomi said to her daughters-in-law, "Go back to each of you to your mother's home." That's the key line in this whole thing. To your mother's home. I'm pretty sure this is the last mention of a mother's home in the biblical timeline, but it is something you see a lot in like Mesopotamian literature from the Bronze Age, that it's like a common thing. You see mother's home all over the place, but I don't think you ever see it again after this point. So may Yahweh show you kindness as you have shown kindness to your dead husbands and to me. May Yahweh grant that each of you will find rest in the home of another husband. It's Ruth 1, 8 and 9. So as they wept aloud again, then Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth clung to her. "Look," said Naomi, "your sister-in-law is going back to her people and to her gods. Go back with her." But Ruth replied, "Don't urge me to leave you or turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May Yahweh deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me." When Naomi realized that Ruth was determined to go with her, she stopped urging her. So they go back to Bethlehem. So they've been gone for 10 years. Naomi's been gone for 10 years. Where Ruth meets Boaz, who is an honorable kinsman. And so she starts, Ruth and Naomi don't have any money. So they're kind of staying at Boaz's house, and Ruth is working with the women there. So one day, Ruth's mother-in-law, Naomi, said to her, "My daughter, I must find a home for you where you will be provided for. Now Boaz, with whose women you have worked, is a relative of ours. Tonight he will be winnowing barley on the threshing floor. Wash, put on perfume, and get dressed in your best clothes. Then go down to the threshing floor, but don't let him know that you are there until he has finished eating and drinking. When he lies down, note the place where he is lying, then go and uncover his feet and lie down. He will tell you what to do." Oh, you know what? So I updated the blog. So there's total sexual overtones to this, because the word feet is a euphemism for his penis. Like, it's a euphemism used throughout the Bible for penis. They'll say feet. So then go down and uncover his feet and lie down, and he will tell you what to do. I will do whatever you say. What's
Real
that?
quick, where do you see feet referenced as the penis in other places in the text or in the Bible?
Yeah, and how did you find that out? Like that feet were the reference?
Because I've seen it other places in the Bible. And then when I was writing this up last night, I didn't like footnote it in the text, but it's definitely like a scholarly thing. I Googled it like while I was writing this up. It's definitely repeated. It happens with Moses too. That scene when Moses needs to get circumcised, and his wife Yahweh's
Threw it at his
him.
feet.
Threw it at his feet. Yeah, that's where I learned it. I think it shows up other places too.
Okay.
Well, I mean, there's also the washing of feet.
There's that too.
Do you think that's
so? Sometimes feet just means feet, but sometimes it's a euphemism.
Okay, thanks. Interesting.
And when you read the story this way, like, all right, it kind of works.
I know, because I'm like, what? Why uncover his feet? Like, what's that? Yeah. All right.
So after he's gotten good and liquored up, and he's laying down after having a fun night of eating and drinking, and
how did she know he will tell you what to do? How did she know?
Man, he can tell her what to do.
Right.
So I will do whatever you say, Ruth answered. So she went down to the threshing floor and did everything her mother-in-law told her to do. When Boaz had finished eating and drinking and was in good spirits, he went to lie down at the far end of the grain pile. Ruth approached quietly, uncovered his feet, and lay down. In the middle of the night, something startled the man. He turned, and there was a woman lying at his feet. "Who are you?" he asked. "I am your servant Ruth," she said. Spread the corner of your garment over me, since you are a guardian redeemer of our family. So spread your blanket over me." "Yahweh bless you, my daughter," he replied. "This kindness is greater than that which you showed me earlier. You have not run after the younger men, whether rich or poor. And now, my daughter, don't be afraid. I will do for you all that you ask. All the people of my town know that you are a woman of noble character." So it's not clear if he actually touches her that night. Story goes on a little bit.
But I just want to say the thing about like the covering with the garment. If I understand correctly, that's also like a symbol and a metaphor for like take me under your wing in a sense, or like there's
she's trying to like win him over as a husband. She wants all of it.
Yeah, but I mean, like that particular like idea and act and to say that has so much to do with like, bring me into your family, put me like say under your coat of arms, take me under your wing. And sometimes in ancient like wedding ceremonies, one of the things that they would do would be to eat like either whether it was like say your family tartan, you would, give to the bride or cover her, or if it was like your cloak or, your sort of like something that was symbolic that maybe had like your family symbols or coat of arms, and you would place that over the bride as a symbol of now she belongs in our family, in our house.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. That totally works with it as well. And I think that's in fact literally what I think there's the literal comment of like, I'm laying next to you in bed, cover me with your blanket. And then there's the bigger symbolic version of like, marry me, bring me into your family, and, and formalize. I've been hanging out with you for the last couple months. So, I know you like me. I like you. Like, let's get it together.
Yeah.
So he does. So Boaz took Ruth and she became his wife. When he made love to her, Yahweh enabled her to conceive. And she gave birth to a son. Then the women said to Naomi, this is clearly the mother-in-law, praise be to Yahweh, because Naomi is the big winner in this as well, because she comes as part of the package and she also gets brought into the household. So the women said to Naomi, praise be to Yahweh, who this day has not left you without a guardian redeemer. May he become famous throughout Israel. He will renew your life and sustain you in your old age. For your daughter-in-law, who loves you and who is better to you than 7 sons, has given him birth. So Naomi is definitely the winner in all this. And it just speaks to like how same situation with Judah and Tamar, that like the woman needs to get established in the man's household. And that means like you got to bring a baby and all this stuff, as opposed to the women staying in the women's households. So Naomi took the child in her arms and cared for him. The women living there said, Naomi has a son, and they named him Obed. He was the father of Jesse, the father of David. So grandfather of King David. So yeah, that's a really small story. People don't talk about it all that much. I came across in my research at some point. And yeah, I do think it's a nice little bit of like this marital commentary of this transition. And it speaks to the tenuous position women held at this point in time in history, where it's like, I mean, without getting her daughter married off, I mean, Naomi would just be living in the street, as like a beggar, really. So, all right. So it goes on here. We're getting to the kings now. So sometime around 1030 BCE, during this hard period of famine and lawlessness, the Israelite people demanded a king to fight their battles for them. The elders summoned the prophet Samuel and asked him to appoint a king to lead them. The prophet Samuel objected. He told the people that a king would take the best of everything for himself and drive them into slavery, but the people insisted. Samuel's warnings all proved true, and we live with the effects to this day. So we are into the book of Samuel now. So when Samuel grew old, he appointed his sons as Israel's leaders. The name of his firstborn was Joel, and the name of his second was Abijah, and they served at Beersheba. But his sons did not follow his ways. They turned aside after dishonest gain and accepted bribes and perverted justice. So all the elders of Israel gathered together and came to Samuel at Ramah. They said to him, you are old, and your sons do not follow your ways. Now appoint a king to lead us, such as all the other nations have. But when they said, give us a king to lead us, this displeased Samuel. So he prayed to Yahweh, and Yahweh told him, listen to all that the people are saying to you. It's not you that they have rejected, but they have rejected me as their king, as they have done from the day I brought them up out of Egypt until this day, forsaking me and serving other gods. So they are doing to you. So now listen to them, but warn them solemnly and let them know what the king who will reign over them will claim as his rights. Samuel told all the words of Yahweh to the people who were asking them for a king. He said, this is what the king who will reign over you will claim as his rights. He will take your sons and make them serve with his chariots and horses, and they will run in front of his chariots. Some he will assign to be commanders of thousands and commanders of 50s, and others to plow his ground and reap his harvest, and still others to make weapons of war and equipment for his chariots. He will take your daughters to be perfumers and cooks and bakers. He will take the best of your fields and vineyards and olive groves and give them to his attendants. He will take 1/10 of your grain and of your vintage and give it to his officials and attendants. Your male and female servants, the best of your cattle and donkeys, he will take for his own use. He will use 1/10 of your flocks, and you yourselves will become his slaves. When that day comes, you will cry out for relief from the king you have chosen, but Yahweh will not answer you in that day. But the people refused to listen to Samuel. No, they said, we want a king over us. Then they will be like all the other nations, with a king to lead us, to go out before us and fight our battles. When Samuel heard all the people said, he repeated it before Yahweh. Yahweh answered, listen to them and give them a king. 1 Samuel 8, 1-21. So I think that's very interesting. Anyone, any comments on that from you guys? I mean, I've been thinking about this for a couple of days now. It's like what Samuel says, and you put it into like the modern political framework, like the sort of Marxist political framework, where it's like we're oppressed by our ruling classes. The ruling class are stealing from us and driving us into poverty. You know, they tax us so much we have to sell our daughters to them, our children, and we send them to the armies. Everything, is taxes. I mean, that's what comes with kings. They demand taxes in exchange for protection. It's a big protection racket, right? So that's when all the communal lands go away and get turned into fiefdoms. It's after kingship arrives. When it was tribalism, then the lands were owned communally, and we see this in the modern day. But as soon as you bring in kings and upper class leadership, then all that it all gets turned into tax lands. And so the prophet's warning him, and Samuel's correct. He's totally correct.
So kings are the original like mob bosses or crime.
Absolutely. They're warlords. They come in by force.
Yeah.
And it's a big extortion racket. They steal and plunder.
They're extorting everybody. Yeah.
And then you've got a neighbor who's a warlord next door, and he's going to steal and plunder too. So you got to your people need a warlord of their own. And so the whole thing just turns into an extortion racket of competing warlords. And then everyone's got to pledge fealty to one warlord or another.
It does seem like, so God doesn't, evidently you see this where Yahweh does not want Israel to have a king. He wants to be the king over them. He wants them to trust in him. And yet we saw this narrative starting with, like when we just read in Ruth, that there's this preparation for King David while all this is going on, right? And then, so the people will pick Saul, and it gets into this whole story, but it was never Yahweh's intention to have a king anyway. So,
it sounds like Yahweh wanted a religious community originally, but then once the people demanded a king, Yahweh says, go for it. And then Yahweh goes with the kings, and then Yahweh becomes an imperial religion too. So even Yahweh gets corrupted by the kingship.
Yeah, it's an interesting narrative here. It seems like God or Yahweh acquiesces to the will of people rather than,
not so omnipotent, right?
Yeah. Certainly a different image than what you're taught in most Sunday schools.
Yeah, definitely not omnipotent, right? So I'm not going to say much about King Saul. He's the first king of Israel, but he gets disgraced. He stands as a cautionary tale of hubris and mistrust. Though the Bible is not precise, scholars believe Saul ruled Israel for roughly 20 years, from around 1030 to 1010 BCE. Saul was a great military leader, tall and handsome. He fought many battles and won many victories against the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Philistines, the Amalekites, and others. Biblical summary states that wherever he turned, he was victorious. King Saul died by his own sword in battle, and the Philistines took his armor to the temple of Astarte as war prize. They put his armor in the temple of the Ashtoreths and fastened his body to the wall of Bethshan. So this is one of the mentions of the goddesses. It's the Ashtoreths, which is plural with the ETH. The ETH means shame. I'm going to talk about that below. But this is the goddesses. It's either Astarte or the triple goddess, Astarte, Anat, and Asherah all together. Either way. But yeah, so the Philistines are worshipped Astarte. So King Saul lost favor, and then Yahweh chose a young shepherd named David to become the new king. King David is one of the great heroes of the Bible. David was first brought into Saul's court as his young armor bearer, and gained fame when he defeated the giant Goliath using only a stone and a sling. We all know that story. David became Saul's top general, and his military success and popularity with the people made him a threat to the king. Saul tried to have David killed, but Saul's son Jonathan was a close friend of David and repeatedly helped him escape. Many modern critical scholars suggest that David and Jonathan may have been lovers. Jonathan was killed alongside his father, and David mourned bitterly. And this is from the Bible. I grieve for you, Jonathan, my brother. You are very dear to me. Your love for me was wonderful, more wonderful than that of women. Any comments on that? The homosexuality possibility between David and Jonathan? Some people really like this topic. I don't make much of it myself, but.
Well, I mean, that looks, yeah. I mean, if
you can certainly read into it, right?
Yeah. It's provocative. I mean, to anybody who would read it.
So. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, are you guys familiar with that line of controversy? So after Saul's death, David had to fight another one of Saul's sons to become king. This guy is given the name Ishbosheth with the ETH, who was king for 2 years. Ishbosheth, I can't say it, means man of shame. His proper name was Eshbal, meaning man of Baal. So again, they're Baal worshippers. So the ETH epithet means shame and is also applied to the goddesses. Ashtoreth means shameful Astarte and represents the origins of slut shaming. So I'm saying, so when they say shameful Astarte, shame, 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 it's totally about the sex. So it's totally slut shaming and something they did not do in Mesopotamia, but they do it from this point going forward.
Well, but they're also just trying to make, the pagans and the goddess, they're just trying to make them look bad, right? And it's like the, one of the original psyops, right? To get people thinking a certain way. Yeah.
So King David fought many military victories. He was a great general. And perhaps David's most long-lasting military legacy was taking Jerusalem from the Jebusites in the year 1004 BCE. So scholars accept that this is a real historical event, even if there was no real King David, and we can place a flag firmly on our timeline here. So from this point, no more speculation. From this point going forward in the timeline, from 1004 BC, we are on our timeline of real historical events and real historical people. There's no more, just legends from the myths of, the fog of history. Now we'll get into the Book of Kings and we'll be talking about real people. Even as legendary as King Solomon is, I think there was a real King Solomon. And certainly all the other characters are all going to be real people. So the Bible offers minimal details about the attack on Jerusalem, but it appears that David led his soldiers up a water shaft to get past the city walls. Jerusalem was very well fortified and proved to be a difficult city to capture over the centuries. One of the reasons why Jerusalem still matters today is because it was difficult to capture. The way it's tucked into the valley with the walls, the way the walls are set up, it was a really tough nut to crack in the ancient world. And yeah, so I mean, like the Assyrians sieged it. They sacked all of Judah. They sieged Jerusalem for months or for years even, and didn't get in. So, worth noting. So, from the Bible, the king and his men marched to Jerusalem to attack the Jebusites who lived there. The Jebusites said to David, "You will not get in here. Even the blind and the lame can ward you off." They thought, David cannot get in here. Nevertheless, David captured the fortress of Zion, which is the city of David. On that day, David had said, anyone who conquers the Jebusites will have to use the water shaft to reach those lame and blind who are David's enemies. That is why they say the blind and lame will not enter the palace. David then took up residence in the fortress and called it the city of David. He built up the area around it from the terraces inward, and he became more and more powerful because Yahweh God Almighty was with him. 2 Samuel 5. So David had many wives and concubines, but the most famous and scandalous wife was Bathsheba, the mother of Solomon. So back to the Bible, it's a very famous story. Now we're getting a very famous story here. So one evening, David got up from his bed and walked around on the roof of the palace. From the roof, he saw a woman bathing. The woman was very beautiful, and David sent someone to find out about her. The man said, "She is Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, and the wife of Uriah the Hittite. Then David sent messengers to her to get her. She came to him, and he slept with her. Now she was purifying herself from her monthly uncleanness. Then she went back home. The woman conceived, and she sent word to David, saying, I am pregnant. 2 Samuel 11. Bathsheba was a married woman when the king summoned her for a visit. David impregnated her, setting off a series of events as David attempted to cover his tracks. Bathsheba's husband was a loyal officer named Uriah. David brought him home from the battle in hopes that he would visit his wife, but Uriah refused the comforts of home while his men remained in the field. Then David raised the stakes. He sent Uriah into the thick of the fight, knowing he would be struck down. So when David sends Uriah home, he says, go home and wash your feet. Like, go visit your wife and wash your feet. So some people think that's the same use of the euphemism. So Uriah is killed, and Bathsheba mourned after him. After a time, David brought her home and married her, and their child was born. This scandalous behavior displeased Yahweh and the prophet Nathan, who confronted David with his crimes. David admitted everything, and Nathan proclaimed that tragedy would befall David's family. The baby was struck ill and died. David had many children with various wives, and throughout his life, there would always be family turmoil. At one point, his oldest son Absalom would rebel and attempt to seize the throne before himself being killed. So this story of David and Bathsheba establishes an archetype that has been followed by kings, presidents, and politicians ever since. When caught in adultery or other scandals, the politician theatrically retreats to the model of King David by publicly confessing his sins, proclaiming they are flawed, and seeking redemption from the people. And of course, they all hope to avoid the misery that actually followed David to his grave. That's something I noticed about politicians a while back. They'll always go back to, every time they're caught in adultery, they always go back to like the Bible story of King David. And if King David is all right for King David, then it's all right for me, right? So David lived to be an old man, but the palace intrigue never ended. Of all the famous characters in the Bible, David seems to be the most real to me, the most human. David's story reads like the biography of a real historical figure, full of contradictions, heroism, and treachery, bravery and tragedy, and with minimal supernatural intervention. Archaeologists have never confirmed the existence of King David, though they do have evidence of the house of David, which strongly implies that he was real. And it was an illiterate and anarchic time period, so it makes sense there's no written records. During the reign of David, there was a famine for 3 successive years. David sought the face of Yahweh. It's just an example of famine. There was some joy for David, though. He did have another child with Bathsheba, who was so beloved, he was given the name Jedediah, loved by the Lord. But we know him better as King Solomon.
He was the Jedi.
Jedediah, right? Yeah, the Jedi. So then David comforted his wife Bathsheba, and she went to her and made love to her. So she gave birth to a son. And they named him Solomon. Yahweh loved him, and because Yahweh loved him, he sent word through Nathan, the prophet, to call him Jedediah. So for the next few weeks, we'll dive into King Solomon. All right. So I'll just finish up what I was saying, what I wrote here. For the next few weeks, we'll dive into King Solomon, who is the most pivotal biblical figure from the goddess perspective. King Solomon was the greatest, wisest, most legendary of all the Israelite kings. His wealth and glory were unsurpassed. And yet King Solomon had a problem. He worshipped the goddesses, and the biblical writers are not happy about it at all. King Solomon is the father of the wisdom traditions. Wisdom is also known as Sophia, a goddess, and she lies at the heart of all Western esoteric and occult traditions, such as the Kabbalah and Hermeticism. The Greeks portrayed Sophia as a goddess, and the Gnostics placed her at the heart of their mystical Christian traditions. As the father of the wisdom traditions, King Solomon is the conduit through which the acceptable parts of the feminine divine were channeled into the monotheistic Abrahamic faiths. All right. That's everything I had prepared. So, any thoughts? King David, King Solomon?
Yeah, really good, Ed.
Because I'm not as familiar with all of these stories and everything, I don't feel like I have quite as much understanding to add. And I'm not sure what questions I might have at this point, but I'm so glad to be learning more about this, because so much of these stories are just kind of considered common knowledge. But if you didn't grow up like in a religious household and, reading the Bible or going to church or whatever, then you just kind of hear about these things sort of in passing as like, they've become cultural references versus like, the things we grew up with. Because that's my situation. I didn't grow up with
no,
this.
King David especially. I mean, it's a name you hear culturally all the time. King David Hotel, King David this, King David that. It's like a brand name, And,
but it's like you hear certain stories about David, but not. There's things. There's a lot, Lisa, even though you didn't go to, there's a lot of stories in the Old Testament that are never talked about in church or Bibles. I mean,
of course.
It's just like, for example, some of the stuff we just read, the promiscuity, what they would call more promiscuous passages, they don't read these parts.
Of course not.
It's just not discussed. And so
that's what we're doing in God's Bible study, going after all the parts that.
Yes. I mean, if it's seedy, I want to know about it.
Well, there's this really great passage it's First Kings. It's like the first chapter, and it I don't know if you can pull it up, but it's when King David is very old, and he's cold in his bedroom. This is how the book opens up. He's very cold, and the guys around him are like, the king's cold. What are we going to do? Well, they're like, we need to go find a young, hot-looking girl, and so she can snuggle up with him at night and keep him warm. I mean, that's the kind of stuff. Like, how does that get in the Bible? No one teaches that in Bible school, Sunday school, and these are just the things that I think are very human, that just get purged out of. Those stories don't get in the culture, and it's right. Very, they pick and choose the biblical things.
So this is 1 Kings 1. When King David was very old, he could not keep warm, even though they put covers over him. So his attendant said to him, "Let us look for a young virgin to serve the king and take care of him. She can lie beside him so that our Lord the king may keep warm." Yeah. So then they searched throughout Israel for a beautiful young woman and found Abishag, a Shunammite, and brought her to the king. The woman was very beautiful, and she took care of the king and waited on him, but the king had no sexual relations with her.
Sure. Really old at that old age, he might not have been able to.
But anyway. But the point is, like, why would they look for someone who's beautiful? Why someone who is young? I mean, they could have found any attendant. Why put a stumbling block in front of an old man? After a man after God's own heart. Yeah, I'm not just saying this to like criticize the Bible. I'm just saying, I think it's great that the Bible has these stories in there. They're just never talked about, it's never discussed that, there's these things that just do not fit the ethics of what most people would say are biblical.
But the story with Bathsheba, though, this one really is quite famous. I mean, it's almost as famous as David and Goliath. David and Goliath we just skipped right over because I think we all know that one. He's a little kid, he's a young guy, 13 or something. Goliath is this giant Philistine soldier who and then David goes out with no armor and with a single stone in his slingshot and hits him in the forehead and kills him, and he becomes a great hero. But this one with Bathsheba, really, it's if you haven't seen it before, anytime, I swear to God, anytime a politician in England or America gets busted with adultery and they want to keep their jobs, the playbook is King David, man. The playbook is King David. It's always, if King David sinned before God, and I am a humble servant as much as anybody else. And if King David can sin and still be favored, then, I confess, please, accept me back. And King David, my God, they go on and on with it. Bill Clinton was a master of all this stuff, but so many other politicians too. They always lean on this story.
Yeah, but they rarely. I don't know if they would. What is Psalm 51 is supposedly the song of that David, or the prayer that David prayed after he committed this sin with Bathsheba.
Oh, really? Let me find that one.
Interesting.
It's a very famous psalm.
51.
Yeah, have mercy on me, O
All
God.
right. Oh, yeah. Have mercy on me, O God, according to your unfailing love, according to your great compassion. Blot out my transgressions, wash away all my iniquity, and cleanse me from my sin. For I know my transgressions, and my sin is always before me. Against you, you only have I sinned and done what is evil in your sight. So you are right in your verdict and justified when you judge. Surely I was sinful at birth, sinful from the time my mother conceived me. Yet you desired faithfulness even in the womb. You taught me wisdom in that secret place. Cleanse me with hyssop, and I will be clean. Wash me, and I will be whiter than snow. Let me hear joy and gladness. Let the bones you have crushed rejoice. Hide your face from my sins and blot out all my iniquity. Create in me a pure heart, O God. And how long does this go? All right. Create in me a pure heart, O God, and renew a steadfast spirit within me. Do not cast me from your presence or take me from the Holy Spirit from me. Restore me the joy of your salvation and grant me a willing spirit to sustain me. Then I will teach transgressors your ways so that sinners will turn back to you. Deliver me from the guilt of bloodshed, O God. You who are God, my Savior, and my tongue will sing of your righteousness. Open my lips, Lord, and my mouth will declare your praise. You do not delight in sacrifice, or I would bring it. You do not take pleasure in burnt offerings. My sacrifice, O God, is a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart. You, God, will not despise. May it please you to prosper Zion, to build up the walls of Jerusalem. Then you will delight in sacrifices of the righteous, in burnt offerings offered whole. Then bulls will be offered on your altar. Huh. All right. Thanks for pointing that
I'll
out.
tell you what that is right there is bargaining with God, right? Bargaining with Yahweh. And it's one of those situations where, that term, it's better to say you're sorry later than ask for permission beforehand.
After the murder and adultery, then I
that's
beg your forgiveness.
totally what it sounds like to me.
I mean, right? I mean, you can't see it, I don't have it shared, but it says right here, a Psalm of David when the prophet Nathan came to him after he had committed adultery with Bathsheba. So I mean, there's no ambiguity that like what Joshua said. I mean, like it's what it says right in the text there, that this is clearly about the Bathsheba sin. And so I mean, it is funny.
Yeah. Well, to your point, no politician goes out there and certainly praise that psalm,
But unless they do it performatively,
it's always that's my point. It's always performative. It's always performative.
I mean, right. And that's probably what they do when they go back to their churches, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's okay."
No, it's like the playbook. It's like the design. What do you call it? Your public relations person. The PR playbook, like after scandal, like break glass. Here's the.
But I tell you the other thing that happens, and tell me if you've seen this, because you referenced Bill Clinton, but I've seen this even just with people I actually know, where the husband cheats. He, tries to say, get good with God or whatever. And the people in the church, or in the case of the Clintons, the people of the nation, turn against the wife who did nothing wrong.
All right.
And yes, I know women who have been in that situation, and the church turns against them and practically shuns them instead of supporting them.
Yeah, I mean, they protect
stories like that
all the time for sure.
Yeah.
We will talk about when we get to Zeus, when we go back to the Greeks, we'll talk about Zeus and Hera and their model of marriage, and how that speaks that Zeus is constantly philandering, and when Hera finds out, she doesn't punish Zeus. She always punishes the other women who are like some innocent victims, like some random girl that Zeus picked up on and raped, and then Hera chases them and hounds them for the rest of their lives, which is exactly the model of Bill and Hillary Clinton, where Bill Clinton goes around dogging with all these women, and every time it comes out publicly, Hillary's job is to go out there and just absolutely wrecked the women, like Jennifer Flowers or Monica Lewinsky or any of these other women that came out. Hillary leads the warpath to like crush the women who dared speak up.
I mean, if you're in one of those kind of marriages, and especially one that's like, I mean, it's political or, it's a monarchy, which in this day and age is almost like the same thing, right? You, as a woman, and especially in older generations, your power came through your husband.
Sure.
Right? So you had to hang in there, and you had to, like, quote, stand by his side. So you had to be kind of holier than thou. And of course, as we know, because we've been talking about this for months, the women are the ones that get put upon. They're the ones that get blamed.
Yeah, I mean, look at Ruth and Naomi. Like, what's Ruth going to do if Boaz he has sex with one of the other women who works in his household? Not going to do anything. She's not going to do anything. So this model for marriages has lasted now for 3,000 years, and still, going pretty strong. But things are shifting. That's what makes it this moment we're living in. What Josh and I were talking about off camera is like, the world is turning like under our feet right now.
Oh yeah,
and we're going into the space age, and like everything's up for grabs now. Family structures are up for grabs. Like, you don't need to control women's sexuality to know who the baby daddy is, because we got birth control and paternity testing and modern science, and like
But I mean, not to mention that the system, some of the systems and like the connections between the global elites and the horrific things that they have perpetrated and done, like that system is starting to crumble and fall apart. And that's like been the system for thousands of years. The crime bosses,
right?
Kings, monarchs, whatever, the crime bosses. And so that stuff is falling apart. Like, everybody's ready to raze it to the ground, burn it down, raze it to the ground. Let's start over. And I mean, we've been needing to since this country was founded, right? Founded on blood, genocide, slavery, right? So I think everything is turning hardcore. Yeah, it's still got a lot of crumbling apart and exploding, imploding to do.
We're in end stage liberalism. The question is, what comes next?
Yeah.
End stage of the Enlightenment, end stage liberalism. I firmly think we're going to hit the singularity here. Like, the singularity is upon us, and that like just the technology shift alone is just like so radical. So the AI stuff is like totally real and powerful, like more powerful than we have any fucking idea what it's going to do. But so, yeah, things are shifting. And so I think the mother coming back, I think I think we got to put the mother back in the equation. That becomes like the challenge for like the coming generation. I think as a replacement, literally as a political replacement for Marxism, as the atheists are going down, like every atheist political movement in the last 250 years has imploded spectacularly. And so now in the West, the woke left zeitgeist that's in Europe, the United States, Canada, they're all atheists, and like they've gone completely off the rails, and they're completely detached from reality, and they're like failing. The educated liberals, my team that I come from, the educated liberal elite are completely detached from reality, and they're failing. They're failing in real time and headed over a cliff. And that's why the crime boss Trump was like able to come in, because of liberal failure. It's liberal failure in Israel too, that the liberal, secular, socialist Israelis failed to hold the line against the religious fanatics who have completely taken over the country, who are complete maniacs with nuclear weapons. And there's failure in Europe too. So it's like, what comes next?
I wonder how much they're really religious fanatics versus like power hungry, corrupt. That's the way I see it. I don't see that like religious tribalism, and there's power, hunger, and greed.
When they blow up the Alaska Mosque and set about building a third temple, I think we can safely call them religious, because that's what they intend to do. They have every intention of doing it.
But I don't think it's so much about the religion as the tribalism.
I mean, it's actually the ultimate. I would describe it. I would describe it as the ultimate expression of white supremacy, the ultimate expression of colonialist white supremacy. That this is the last final act of the last 500 years of colonialism. And the last 500 is Israel. Like it's the last imperialist, superiorist movement group.
But they can also say to the people, like, look, we built this temple for you. And they can have that as like a sort of a guise, if you will. But like, I don't know. I also
think a rationale for their imperialism. Is it? I don't underestimate any people's religious feelings at this point. Because I don't underestimate the Muslims either. And I take the Muslims extremely seriously on what they say. I take the Jews seriously on what they say. I take the Christians seriously on what they say. I take these people seriously. And I take the mother seriously because I think the mother can go toe to toe with all these folks. And so when I watch the Israelis with the Temple Institute building all of the accoutrements for the temple, a new menorah, they've got the red heifer, like they went out and hunted for red heifers. And there's this whole prophecy and this whole ritual they got to do to sanctify the third temple with the red. They've got them. They're ready to do it today. And all they got to do is someone's got to have the courage to launch the mortars on the Al-Aqsa Mosque that I'm 100% confident are trained on it as we speak.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I just I can't stress. We're talking about. We're speaking about time. We definitely feel like we're in this. Some would say end times. It is time of some kind, and the astrological clock above us, in the stars, is definitely pointing towards something right now. We have
huge.
Just the Saturn and Neptune are going to be conjoining in about 3 days.
The 20th.
This is the 17th of February, 2026.
Yeah. We had a solar eclipse.
And it's at the 0 degree point of Aries, which is the first degree of the zodiac.
It's the beginning.
So there is something, from just a symbolic point of view, hard not to look at that and say we're on the cusp, literally the cusp of something quite big.
So if you look to the past, with Saturn and Neptune conjunctions in other signs, you can look at World War I.
Yeah.
You can look at the Civil War here in the United States.
That's right.
I'm trying to think of some of the other ones, but I read something and it's like they pointed out, like, over the last however many hundreds of years, here are the places where those two came together and here's what was taking place. And so like we're definitely in it. I think there's going to be so much more to come.
We're talking about enormous change. Aries is a sign of it's a cardinal sign. It's the changing of the seasons. It's a fire sign. It's a cardinal sign. A sign of change. And for it to happen, for the synchronicity for that to happen at the first degree that's not a small omen. This is a very loud and screaming omen of the stars.
It's probably one of the biggest things in our lifetime, and that probably bigger than the Saturn-Pluto conjunction in
2020. Yeah, with COVID.
Yeah, it kicked off COVID. Yeah.
Well, if there was ever to be like you have the story of Christ being born under a star, that one that happened, the Pluto. That was, with the world went silent and everything stopped. If that wasn't like some kind of birth of the Antichrist, if there is an Antichrist 30 years later, that was such an ominous moment.
What moment was that?
When
yeah, right.
Saturn, Pluto.
The thing that kicked off at the same time, COVID was this conjunction of Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn.
It was in the middle of the goat horn of Capricorn where they conjoined, and the whole world went quarantine. Everybody was in their home.
The COVID.
I mean, there weren't even planes in the sky. It was like the inauguration of something like, hey, everybody bow. And I tell you, I felt such evil in the air during that time. I was just like, oh my God, I don't know what we're watching, but
but Ed, you're talking about they've like been gathering all the things to usher in the third temple. And to me, I look at that through the lens of, and I mean, we're just starting to, and we're going to go into talking about Solomon, like that they're fucking doing magic.
Oh, they are.
They're doing magic. And we know now too through the Epstein files that they've been doing magic.
Right.
They use auspicious days, and that's the thing. Like some people will say millionaires make fun of astrology, billionaires like playing it, and they I fully believe that they choose these dates. These are very auspicious things that they're playing with. It's astro magic with trying to pull in the energies of the planets. Absolutely a thing.
Yeah.
So it's like riding a wave. They're like, might as well do it on this day. It will help us accomplish.
And the Nazis were doing it too. The Nazi high command was doing this kind of stuff too.
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. So I see that, and I'm excited to learn more about Solomon because I do know quite a bit about high magic, which was essentially what Solomon practiced, if I understand.
Right.
That,
so,
he's Solomon, got all these symbols and sigils and seals and so on.
Most of that stuff is extra biblical. He is like the single character that has more extra biblical stuff than anybody else.
Okay.
Because he's like a legend in the Arab world and in a bunch of different cultures. So there's so much stuff outside the Bible about King Solomon. I might bring in some of it, but like that's a whole other thing. That's a rabbit hole unto itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the stuff that's in the Bible is cool enough as it is.
I mean, they basically take the magic and then they have to like, well, how do we legitimize this and make it seem like it's okay? Well, King Solomon was great, and he was.
And the Jewish star is meant to be from King Solomon. The two interlocked triangles is meant to be that. I see that two interlocked trinities.
It's also the union of like say yin and yang or masculine and feminine. As above, so below.
Yeah, and it's not specific to Israel at all. So it's
true.
No.
True.
I think there is. I might get some hate for this, but I have some concerns around some of the practices around Kabbalah, and I don't think it's all. I won't say anymore. I think that this is the playground of what a lot of us are seeing in some of this Epstein stuff. I think it comes out of that tradition, and it doesn't surprise me is what I should say. Some of this doesn't really surprise me.
It has been manipulated for thousands of years and used in very sort of dark, evil, and sadistic ways. It has. There's people that
100%.
Yeah, there's people that work with it and the more sort of like nice and mystical understandings and so on. But I remember when I studied it when I was like, 21, 22 years old, I remember being like, okay, this is very interesting and I understand, but also like, I don't feel right about messing with that. I'm glad I have a general understanding of it, but it felt like something not to be touched.
Well, Lisa, I don't even know. I'm sure you're aware that what you just said. I think that you nailed it. It's manipulation. When magic is used to manipulate another person's will, I mean, that to me lands on the dark side of.
It's sadistic.
It's the dark side, Yeah.
So, and it's dark as in evil, not dark as in like nighttime and feminine. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for qualifying that. Like, nighttime is not evil. It's exactly.
Right.
Because like you had these, all these mystery religions that have like an outer face that's open to the public, and then they got an inner esoteric side that were perfectly fine. Like all these goddess traditions, the mysteries of Isis, they're open to the public. Anybody can do them. There's nothing like evil going on. But after the Christians come along and, and closed them all and forced it underground, then these secrets are only kept by like certain people. And a lot of that gets taken over by nefarious people that have ill intent. And they use, like, there was a real powerful magic in the traditions of Isis that gets used that goes from sacred to profane, right? That like it gets taken over by dark people that are keeping the secrets for themselves and not sharing it with the public, and then manipulating it to their own like imperial evil, let's take over the world kind of Bond villain sort of ends,
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, there's been a lot of that over the years. It's still happening. And there's still and what I've been noticing recently is that there's these kind of younger generation of people who are practicing magic more in the like high magic sort of sense of it, which is not necessarily steeped in like actual mysticism and spirituality, but more about getting what they want. And they're really into this. And it's the same kind of like high magic and like sort of what Solomon apparently was also practicing. Like he's kind of the model for a lot of folks with that stuff.
I mean, I feel like the Pandora's box of spirituality and magic is just like blowing open right now on our society. It's all this stuff's been kept, so tightly locked down for the last, 1,500 years or so. And now it's all blowing open. You see in the plant medicine world too, where like people don't have training and there's not legacies here. So like people are like, God. It's like, people getting, Hogwarts magic wands, and they don't know how to use them and don't know how to tell the spells.
Yeah.
Like, great analogy, Ed. That is exactly so on that.
There's a lack of mentorship, there's a lack of lineage, there's a lack of reverence, and there are the people who are like sort of they discover it and they think it's all that, and they think all of a sudden they know everything, and so it's also premature authority, and it's very ego based, and there's a lot of bypassing going on where they're not doing the actual shadow work in order to have a good grounded understanding of what they're up to. They just think that because they want this thing that they can go from like beginner level to like the highest level possible without like what happened in ancient times when you like studied for a long time and then you got to level up and then you studied again for a long time and then you got to level up. And that's what people are trying to just go from like A to Z in like 10 seconds flat.
Yeah, this is a great point, because we just spoke about, the priesthood can actually withhold information and keep people in the dark, but that the original intent of the priesthood was to do, and the priestesses included in this, but the idea was to preserve it from being profaned. So where is that very fine line of holding information from the public so they don't hurt themselves, and then also, or keeping the secrets of, like, let's say the mysteries, for example, whether it's Eleusis or down in, the use of ayahuasca, very sacred plant, brings you right to something completely supernatural. Should everybody and their brother do it without certain kind of preparation? No. Absolutely not.
Yeah, I think it's spiritual anarchy in the coming years, man. Like spiritual anarchy in the coming years, like in the near term, like just total Wild West of like lawlessness and gunslingers of, spiritual. I don't know, just like I think of the Bronze Age collapse all the time. Like it was 300 years of like no governance. Can you imagine that? Like 300 years of just like everybody's on their own. Wow. I feel like we're coming into something like that in the space age, something nutty, man.
It's going to be, well, let's just say, getting back to this astrology thing, the idea of the image that's up there right now is something's
so what's happening this week? I was not aware of anything.
It's the 20th, 19th, and 20th.
Mm-hmm.
Saturn represents structure, represents authority, governments,
systems, like the old guard.
What's lining up?
Saturn and Neptune.
Saturn and Neptune.
Neptune's a new planet in astrological terms, but astrologers have spoken of Neptune as being something of this sort of like salt water. It can dissolve structures. But it can also bring in ideas of dreamlike fantasies. Drugs are often associated with Neptune too. So
Addiction, illusion, but also like the dream and like sort of, like the dissolution
utopian
of separation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So everything's gonna have its like altruistic and exalted expression, and it's gonna have its like dark and shadow expression, and it's gonna bring in both of those. But the thing that Josh was starting to get to, and I'm going to let you take over in a second, is that these two planets are so entirely different from one another.
Just a complete polar opposite.
And then they're also entirely different from Aries energy as well. And Aries is ruled by Mars. And so think impulsive and angry and acting before you think, and flying off the handle, the chaotic, warmongering, stuff like that. So Joshua, it's like, tell more about how you understand all of it.
Well, Aries is a spring sign. So think of spring. What does spring do? There's a new experience. Life bursts forth. So I definitely see this as, and especially at that first degree, that there is an initiation going to happen. I will not be surprised if something, whether it's orchestrated by these people wanting to play magic,
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that they want to be doing it if there wasn't truth behind some of this. The synchronicities of the planets is just in our personal lives is enough to be like, wow. On the societal level, it's just really fascinating to see how things can orchestrate themselves. And so when I see everything that's going on, whether it's the Epstein files and the complete suspicion about government now, that's corresponding at the same time as this is happening. And this has the real impulse to like question and not believe anything. That's Neptune dissolving all structures of authority. Like, we don't trust anybody. We're talking about collapse, quick, Aries, fast. Cut. He said ruled by Mars. Mars cuts. Mars burns down things. It's a complete collapse, if in my opinion. If it doesn't happen in the next couple of days, and I'm not saying it has to happen, everything has to happen in one day, but it will be initiated, no doubt about it, astrologically speaking.
The next couple of days we're looking at them attacking Iran, which could launch all of this off.
And Iran has always had Aries qualities to it. If we looked up the nation of Iran, I'm sure Iran has astrological.
Back to the Israelis. The Israelis are pushing Trump really, really hard to attack Iran. Trump doesn't want to do it.
I actually just looked at Trump's natal chart yesterday. Fascinating. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, there were certain things about it that just made a lot of sense. And when we're talking about these kings and how they're crime bosses, he so clearly is one of those as well. And we know for sure he's been involved with organized crime for a long time. And so I love the timing of what we're looking at right now, Ed, because I feel like there's ways in which there are certain kind of correspondences with what's happening in the world now. And we can also draw these threads back through time and be like, seeds were planted, and look, like where you were saying, like, look at what's happening now. The seeds were planted. Like, that's when the shit was happening. It started then.
Yeah. Anybody who watches this video will be able to say like, whoa, this was right on the cusp of right before that happened.
Yeah, something's going to happen. I don't know if it'll be as immediate. I think there's going to be several big things that are coming. But from what I understand, this kind of big deal thing will, it takes a while for some of it to play out. So in a lot of cases, things like this are going to take like a couple of years for us to really see the ramifications of it. Yeah.
No, I
I
think
mean, if it's an event this week, I'm looking at Iran, and then Iran attacks Israel, and then all hell breaks loose, and then at some point Trump cancels an election. Like that's all it's going to take.
That seems like he's really working hard towards that. In
Well,
many
They're
ways.
totally working hard towards it, man. He's
it's
absolutely
important
working
to
very hard towards it.
look at Trump's chart, because astrologers have often looked at the chart of their rulers to dictate where the nation's going. That's not an uncommon thing for astrologers to do. So I haven't looked at Trump's chart for a long time. I know he's a Leo rising.
Yeah, and he's got Mars just inside the 12th house conjunct his ascendant. And he's also got Pluto in the 12th house in Leo. And his sun is conjunct the North Node in Gemini, and his moon is conjunct the South Node in Sagittarius.
How is his ascendant in the 12th? Like you said, is ascendant?
Because where Mars happens, it's just like a degree or two
above it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That might suggest why he's so orange and red.
That's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. Yeah.
The orange man.
I think it's his Venus, and I think, yeah, I remember for sure his Mercury is in Cancer, and then I think his Venus was somewhere around there too, and I thought that was really interesting.
I don't know if I have it here. I wish I did.
You know,
I would have pulled it up. Because, I mean, not that this is getting way off topic of the Goddess Bible study, but I do think the revival of the Goddess will bring astrological teachings right back into the language. Astrology has built into it the feminine. It's just interwoven. You can't have. She can't be kicked out of astrology. She's so.
No, it's all wrapped up in all the stuff that the monotheists throw out.
Yeah,
it's
the
idolaters, the astrologers.
If we took, let's say, like an astrological lens to the Bible, and maybe as it was written back when it was, not bastardized and changed and edited so highly, we would probably find more astrological types of references in it.
Certainly,
because for sure that they even as things were changing from matriarchal to patriarchal, they were still paying attention to those things.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah, no, they were immersed in the world around them. They weren't like living in a vacuum. Like all that stuff was still present.
Yeah. Well, and I'm certain then that Solomon was working with that stuff too. It might not be referenced in the Bible, right. But if he was doing all the things he was doing, then
well, he was ecumenical in the sense that he had wives from all over the place. So you have to imagine those traditions were coming into the palace, and he was talking to them. So that's what made him so wise, is because he had the internet through his wives.
Totally, that's why I see it too. It's like, why is he so wise? Because he's like the one who's smart enough to pay attention to the mother, right?
Oh yeah. It's just
all these other dummies are not paying attention. That's why he's smart and they're dumb.
Yeah, I mean, we call it the internet, but really it's really, and is it any accident that we call it the matrix? I mean, the matrix, the mother, that's where this is coming from. It often gets matter. Yeah, it often gets denoted as something evil or bad, or like, unplugged from the matrix. But it's really the matrix, in a sense, the communication that we're having with everybody, and the talking and the dialogue, even us right now, that's opening up our minds and the real connection of bringing oneness, in a sense, that's kind of enlightening us and waking us all up to these power structures that are going on that are quite corrupt, that can all be linked back to the monotheistic monus, in my opinion. Yep. Which is just a complete imbalance. Yeah,
I'm with you.
So when we talk about
imperial religions, they're fundamentally imperial religions.
Yes.
And that's why we need new religion. I'm all about it. Like, our labor unions and political parties are not going to save us. We need another catalyst for organization. I think we need to organize churches. Churches of the mother. Like, I think this is like the mechanism to like organize horizontally in parallel, without much hierarchy at all. And the less hierarchy, the better. Less organization, the better. But the people need to figure out a way to organize ourselves and save ourselves, because our government's not going to save us. The government's being taken over by oligarchs. They're going to use this shit against us.
Yeah.
And even the internet's going to be used against us. So like, we need to like organize
It
in
is.
person.
It already is.
Yeah.
It already
I
is.
mean,
It's not a free speech platform. The internet is not a free speech platform. We've already lost free speech.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's you can be demonetized. People can build their whole livelihood online. It can be taken away.
Against you platform. It is absolutely not a free speech platform.
With the data mining, they know everything about us. They probably knew when I took a shit this morning. I mean, you know what I'm saying? They do. They know everything.
Yeah. I mean, I just thought about that. I mean, I think I've thought about this before, but ever since Matrix the movie, the word Matrix has entered the zeitgeist, no doubt about it. And it's often this idea like you got to take a pill in order to, wake up from the Matrix. But what really kind of an inversion on the play of the word of what really needs to happen is, as we really need to be tapped into the true Matrix. This is what the Goddess Bible Study is talking about, in order to avoid this synthetic one that's kind of being rolled out, and that is connecting with nature. But I think not just connecting with nature, because technology in and of itself comes out of nature. We're all nature. But but if we don't connect the two, which is what I think the goddess does, and all those ancient symbols, she's always holding like two things at once. And so I think we have to like stay firm and close to nature, and keep our feet in the grounded, but then also not be afraid of this technology either. And it's a hard balance to do, but I think they want to completely keep us in our insulated shoes and not touching grass, and it's leading to another short circuit. And they want us not to take the pill because they want us to keep us in this monotheistic, one-sided, short-circuited nightmare that humanity's been living in.
So Kat said there's Psalm 40 is an astrology reference. I was trying to find it.
Yeah, Joshua, one pill makes you larger and one pill makes you small. Right? I mean,
yeah.
Go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Well, I do think we've got a cabal of oligarchs that have been leading us, coming out of the British Empire. They've been leading us at least since World War II.
Oh yes.
They put the CIA together. They put the Five Eyes together, the Five Eyes intelligence services together, and that they've been running the show since the Truman administration. And Kennedy tried to stand up to him, and they murdered him. And none of the presidents have stood up to him since. And they've been manipulating the fuck out of society since the 60s. The counterculture, rock and roll, Hollywood, it's all been infiltrated by the intelligence services. Timothy Leary was a CIA agent, like handing out LSD, got the LSD from the CIA. The Rolling Stones and the Beatles were knighted by the Queen because they're servants of the empire. James Bond is just like endless propaganda for the British Empire for why the British white supremacists can go around the world murdering whoever they want. It's just total propaganda for England, and we've been
England's the home of the Rothschilds too, in the banking
system. But the cabal is England, USA, and Israel. That cabal that was put together at the Truman administration, because they put together Israel too. That's when Israel was founded. That's when they dropped the bomb. That's when everything gets set up in the Truman administration. After Roosevelt dies or was killed, the entire imperial infrastructure was put together under Truman, and we've been living under it ever since. And the core of that imperial nexus is this intelligence world between Israel, United States, and England that Jeffrey Epstein's at the heart of. Mm-hmm. And Jeffrey Epstein is this window into that world. He was the money launderer for all those guys. And he ran the best brothel in town.
JEvacation at gmail.com.
Yeah.
That's going to become a meme. Mark my words.
Imagine the stuff that's not on that Gmail. Like that's just the shit he was talking about on Gmail. Imagine
Yeah.
the rest of it.
Right.
He's had to have a private email that
I know.
I
All
mean,
we got are crumbs, man, and it's amazing what we're seeing. And they're telling us flat out they're not releasing the rest of it because they've got tons more, much less what England has on them and Israel has on them. And
what do you think, though, Ed, about the fact that, Iran, now we know that that's a dictator, a monotheistic regime. It's very terrible there, right? Very oppressive. But this is also the ancient land where, the goddess was once worshipped there. And known.
I'm no fan of the theocratic regime, but I think Iran is a great country and great. All the people I've ever known that were Persians, Iranians, were always really cool people, and it's highly educated, very sophisticated society. I'm not surprised that they put together weaponry that they can fight back. It's a big country. It's an ancient country. They're rich. They got tons of oil. It's not a country.
It would be really interesting if that thing gets freed, and the seed of what ancient Persia if you could bring to the planet Earth would be. I don't know. That idea excites me. I hope it's true.
I think the mother's totally coming back. I think the mother, because it's a return to historical norms. That's the thing. It's like monotheism is out of balance. It was a divorce and violence to get rid of the mother in the first place, and we've been out of balance ever since. And so bringing the mother back is a restoration. It's a rebalancing. I think, and it harmonizes quantum mechanics with physics. So I think it's the breakthrough we need in Western science as well. Lisa, you're locked up.
Oh yeah.
So I really, when you put the mother back in the equation, like all of these philosophical and metaphysical problems just like get resolved when you see that mind and matter are coexistent, that the Hindus have been right for 5,000 years. So
we hear you.
Something happened. She's back. There we go. All right.
There you are.
So yeah, I think, but it's going to be chaotic in the near term.
The transition's going to be probably quite messy. The messianic hopes of both of what we're watching down in Israel. To your point, there is so much money to bring Jesus back. Here's
what I focus on when it comes to biblical shit. The last lines of the book of Revelation. What comes at the very end? Revelation 22. This is where I want to be. After everything's destroyed, at the very end, this is Revelation 22, Eden restored. Then the angel showed me the river of the water of life, as clear as crystal, flowing from the throne of God. That is a goddess reference, my friends. That is Isis. Isis was the throne of God. And the Lamb, that's Jesus. Down the middle of the great street of the city, on each side of the river, stood the tree of life, bearing 12 crops of fruit, yielding its fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree are for the healing of the nations. I totally believe that's cannabis. No longer will there be any curse. The throne of God and the Lamb will be in the city, and his servants will serve him. And they will see his face. The name will be on their foreheads, and there will be no more night. They will not need the night of the lamp or the light of the sun, for the Lord God will give them light, and they will reign forever and ever. That's where I want to be. I want to be there with the throne of God and the Lamb and the tree of life and be on that team, because that's what's coming next. After the bullshit, that's what comes next. And that's where I want to be. The throne of God, that is a title of Isis. One of her hats has a throne on it. She's the throne upon which the Pharaoh sits. She's the throne upon which the entire planet sits. That's a reference to the goddess. And the tree of life, that's also a total goddess nature reference. Then you've got God and the Lamb, that's Father, Son, Mother. It's a Trinity. That's the Trinity that I want to promote. Mother, Father, Son. And what I saw in Peru was that it was totally seamless. The Quechua and the Catholics had fused their society after 400 years. There's no contradiction on the ground between having God and Jesus and having the mother. And I think this is the second coming. I think we're living the book of Revelations. And I think that's going to be the second coming. I think it's built in from the scratch. I think the guys who got rid of the mother in the first place, because this was an old dispute. There was a dispute back then about mother, father, son versus father, son, Holy Ghost. They had to get rid of the mother back then. So the guys who got rid of the mother back then, they knew there was always going to be a day when she came back. It was built into the equation from the start that they locked her in the closet, but they knew that the closet's not going to hold her forever. There's going to be some day in the future she's going to bust open. And the book of Revelations is like this self-fulfilling prophecy, laying out all these signs of what to look for when the mother comes back. The Whore of Babylon is another title for Ishtar. Like, it's a title. It's not an insult. It's a title that she wore. So it's like all these signs.
But that it speaks to her of drinking the blood of the nations, though, right? I mean,
she is going to drink the blood of the nations because it's going to be cataclysmic. That's what Kali does as part of the restoration. There is going to be blood. There will be blood, like the movie. Like there's going to be blood.
Well, how do you think the white Christian nationalists are going to take it when they, think that this, big revelation and all this is coming for them, and they're going to get to like ascend into
I totally think that Israel's going to blow up with nuclear weapons and like all hell's going to break loose, and I have no idea what people are going to do, but it's going to be chaos. All hell's going to break loose, man.
Yeah, when the Dome of the Rock gets blown up, it's going to be like the shot heard around the world. I mean, it's just going to be something.
And I say this to people, they're like, that's bullshit. They would never do that. I'm like, dude, they are telling us.
Yeah.
They are announcing it as loudly as they can. They are proclaiming it from the hilltops. We're going to build the third temple. I take them at their word. I totally take them at their word.
That's not going to be good.
That's not good.
It's going to be ugly.
And if they get pounded to shit by Iran, who completely has the capability to beat the living snot out of them with ballistic missiles that Israel cannot defend, they're going to use their nukes, man. They will, and that's why the Iranians are holding back. That's the only reason why the Iranians haven't blown them to bits. Why they didn't blow them to bits last time. It's because they don't want to get nuked. Nobody wants to get nuked.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many different routes we could go on that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like...
I could talk to you guys forever. I always feel like that.
Yeah, we should break off though. It's been great talk. It's been an hour and 20, so I think that's a great, nice free form conversation you're going for a while. So I really enjoyed it. Nathan texted me that he couldn't make it, but he said he'll be back next week, and it's been a good core group, so I appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I enjoy everything that you guys bring to the table and the discussions we have. And, I feel enriched by it.
Well, thank you guys a lot. All right. Till next time. Toodaloos. See you guys later.
Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
See you, Ed.
All right.